Thanks to Liz and Tishna and everyone with Power to the Pixel and the BFI London Film Festival for having me here. I was asked to come up today to speak a little bit about free, because when we start talking about digital media, pretty much everything starts to become about free pretty quickly, as in no money. Chris Anderson has gotten a little famous as of late, an editor of Wired, for talking about how everything in the digital world is now trending towards free, where you get airplane tickets even for free with advertising support, it seems. You definitely find music and films available for free, and everything's trending towards free. So how do we make money in that kind of economy? Well, we've seen what's happened in the music world, obviously. The business has changed dramatically because of the idea of free. And we've seen what's been happening in the print world lately as well. Free has completely transformed the business. In the United States alone, more than 120 newspapers have closed since the beginning of this year. And to put that in perspective, that's over 25,000 jobs just in the U.S. alone, pretty much as a result of free. And free is coming to film next, if it's not already here. And I would argue it is already here, whether it's in the terms of piracy, things like the Pirate Bay, or in terms of ad support. And while ad support is definitely something that's going to be here to stay, it's also something that's not returning a lot of money. When you talk to people about what they're making from their advertising-supported sales, what you're usually hearing is not a lot of returns. I'm assuming this is safe for me to drink. It's not someone else's. I might end up with swine flu before I head home. But before we bemoan the situation of the new world with everything is free, I want to take a step back real quickly and look at the way the old world and the film world supposedly worked. So most of you as filmmakers probably expect this is how your lives will go. You make your film, and hopefully you get it into a film festival. You play that festival, and hopefully a distributor, broadcaster, or a lot of them come by and buy your film, and they give you an advance, and they promise you they'll give you some kind of percentage of the revenues that they make on that. And then they go out and they try to sell that to an audience who then pays for the film. And those dollars come back to the distributor, dollars come back to the filmmaker, dollars go back to the investors, and everyone ends the day happy. And that's the way the old world worked. But I'm here to tell you that actually, having worked over a decade in it and being in a position where I talked to a lot of filmmakers, we learned that that was all a bunch of bullshit. What really was happening in the old world was maybe you'd get into a film festival because there's thousands of films made every year and not everyone gets in. And maybe some distributor would like your film, but if you were lucky, and this stays true, they would give you an advance that wasn't what you'd usually hear about for a Michael Moore film. It was more like, if you're lucky, $15,000 US as an advance. It's become the case now where the Grand Jury Prize winner at the Sundance Film Festival last year was offered $50,000 for their film. They turned it down. Maybe you'd get a percentage of the revenues, but that would be somewhere between 30 and 60% after their expenses if you're lucky. And then hopefully they would be able to find an audience for the film. But with thousands of films going out there into the theaters, it's very hard to get theatrical space. And a lot of people aren't even bothered to go to the theaters because they're playing with Facebook and everything else. So you may not find an audience there. And let's say the distributor does get some money from those theaters. They then tell you, oh, wait a minute, we had all these marketing costs, P&A staffing, cross-collateralization, all this other stuff. And so what you end up with is $0 to the filmmakers, $0 to the investors. No one's happy, and you've sold away all your rights, so you don't even own your film anymore. That, to me, looks a lot like free. So what I want to get towards is, how can we have something in between? And everyone always likes to talk about Stuart Brand's famous quote about information wanting to be free, but what he actually said was a little bit longer than that. He said that it's also very valuable. The right information in the right place at the right time completely changes your life. What you have here is this dichotomy of these two things fighting each other, the will towards free and the will towards fee. So how do we have this world where you have both free and fee? Well, essentially what we're asking is, why would people pay for something when they can find it online for free? What we have to notice when we're thinking about this is that the whole notion of value has changed. When copies are free, they're no longer valuable for the same reasons that they used to be. The entire old media world, the film world that we've been used to, has been built on an idea of scarcity. And we're now in a world of overabundance. Copies are cheap. They're cheap to make. They're super abundant. They're everywhere. And so everything has changed. What's also changed, by the way, is it's now an attention economy. because you have to fight as a filmmaker, as a distributor, as a music producer, as everyone else to get my attention, because I've got a lot of shit I could do that's better than what you're offering me. So you have to be able to break through that clutter, because it's a world of overabundance, not of scarcity. It used to be I had to go see that Hollywood film because, frankly, there was nothing else I could go see at my theater, because there were 7 films there, and that was the only option I had. I have a lot of options now, so the whole notion of value has changed, and we'll talk a little bit more about how that's changed as we go on. Another editor of Wired, Kevin Kelly, wrote an article recently where he said that when copies are free, when they're super abundant, the whole nature of digital means that a copy is completely free to make and it's easy to spread. What you have to sell are those things that can't be copied. Well, what are those things that can't be copied? Well, he came up with 8 of them that he called generatives, and I'm going to apply them to the film world. The first is immediacy. People will pay to get something immediately because they want it right then. So right now, I can find anything I want online for free. In fact, I have a friend who says that oftentimes when films come out, they'll go onto Pirate Bay, and if they don't see the film there, they know the film must suck because no one bothered pirating it yet and putting it online for free. But people will actually pay for the immediacy of the convenience. And so I use Netflix, and it's very easy for me to use Netflix and get things quickly. And my time is valuable, so I go on there because Netflix always makes it easy for me. Once I became a member of them, I never have to enter a credit card again. I don't have to click on a lot of stuff. I just click on the film I want to watch. So people will decide to pay even though those things are out there for free because it's immediate. Another is, here's a film example of someone who used it. How many of you have heard the story of Tiffany Shalane and the Tribe? A few. So this is a few years ago, but I think it's still very valuable. Tiffany Shalane made a movie called The Tribe. It's about the history of the Barbie doll and also about Jewish identity. And she got into the Sundance Film Festival, and Sundance said, to be in the Sundance Film Festival as a short, you have to make your film available for free on iTunes simultaneously with the festival. It's a new thing we're trying. And she said, okay, fine, who cares, I'll do that. And so she put her film on for free, and simultaneously, she was selling the film from her own website. She then went along a few months later, and she got into Tribeca, and this was when I was not working there. And Tribeca said, well, we're fine that you're online for free, but we really want to have exclusivity. So will you take the film off being for free just during the month of the film festival so that the only place people can get it is in our window of the Tribeca Film Festival? And she said, okay, crazy festivals, whatever, I'll do that too. And she took it off the online for free. When she did that, and this wasn't a planned experiment, it was just something that happened by chance, she realized that her sales plummeted to 0. People were no longer buying her film anymore. And she was like, what's going on? And then when the Tribeca Film Festival was over, she put her film back on for free and also on iTunes at a low cost, and her sales skyrocketed again. And what she found was people wanted that immediacy of being able to test the content and then buy it if it was something they liked. So they need to have access to it right away, and they'll pay for that immediacy. The other thing they'll pay for is personalization. And this slide's a little bit hard to see. I apologize. I wasn't trying to be able to pull up a website or not here, so I just took a couple quick screenshots. This is the example of Rick Pralinger. Rick Pralinger went around the United States back years ago because every single library across the country was throwing away their films that they had. They were literally just throwing them in the dumpster bin. He said, this is horrible. There's all these things disappearing. So he went around the country, and a lot of the films he was gathering were these kind of industrial films and educational films, things like Blood Flows Red on the Highway and things like that they would use to scare you in school. And he collected all of these, and it became a very large archive. And he digitized all of them and made a deal with Getty, one of the biggest purveyors of digital images, and Getty paid him a lot of money to make this archive available for sale online. He kept it in his deal with them that he also wanted to make these things available for free because he believes in that, and for some reason Getty went along with it. And if you go to internetarchive.org, you can see every single film in the Pralinger archives for free. You can download them for free. You can download them at broadcast quality for free. You get everything for free. And when he did that, his sales went up 60% on the Getty site. And the reason his sales were still happening on the Getty site at all, when you could get the same stuff for free, is the Getty site personalized it to you in a way that he doesn't bother doing on Internet Archive. They actually have researchers who will find the clips you want for the film you're making that you want to put that clip in. They also give you the rights booklet to it that says you have the rights to this clip, which you'll need if you want to sell your film to HBO. So if you just want to watch the film for free, you can go to Internet Archive. But if you want to get it personalized to your needs as a documentary filmmaker, you have to pay. So personalization is another way. Another thing that people can do is interpretation. People will pay for something that gives them a little bit extra. So one thing would be, of course, a study guide for your film. This is the example of Tiffany Schlain again. I didn't bring my prop today, which I usually bring, which is her box set, which is up in the left-hand corner. She realized that people aren't just paying for the content. The content's really easy to get for free, but they wanted all this other stuff around it that helped interpret it. So she made these booklets that are essentially guides to understanding Jewish identity. And so they have different, like the Super Jew up there and things like that. And so the idea is that it gives you more than you would get just from watching the film. So people will pay for that extra stuff that helps them interpret it. Another thing they'll pay for is authenticity. And I think the clearest example of authenticity is the Grateful Dead. Anyone who knows the Grateful Dead knows that thousands of hippies go to their shows and tape them and give away tapes of these shows completely for free. You can get it anywhere for free. But people still buy all of their albums because they want that authentic thing from the band. It's the same thing as Radiohead when they put their music out for free. People still bought it because they wanted something directly from the band. Here's an example that can be translated to filmmakers. This is a musician named Josh Freese. I don't know, anyone know of Josh Freese out there? He's a session musician. He's played with a lot of famous musicians like Nine Inch Nails, etc. And what he did was he said, look, I can give you an authentic experience, and to blow that up, what was on that previous screen to here, if you gave him money towards making his music, he would give you certain things. So you'd get a signed CD later on. He would send you a cymbal and sticks. And if you gave him enough money, you could come out to Venice, California, and you could eat dinner at Sizzler with him. And that was an authentic experience. And people actually paid for it because they wanted to have that authentic experience of getting to know this musician. It's something that also can be translated easy to the film world. This is Objectified by Gary Huswit, and Gary also did the film Helvetica, which many of you have probably seen, and Objectified, his new film. What he's doing is he's selling these very limited editions that you can't find anywhere else on Blu-ray or on a thumb drive that are very high-quality editions of his film, and you're getting it authentically for him. So while you could find Objectified on every pirate network, people are still paying, and they're paying I think about $250 a pop for these limited editions because it's something they are getting authentically from the author. Another thing people will pay for is embodiment. And Sheila, just a second ago, was talking about the Rolling Stones touring. Well, I don't think they're necessarily touring just because they're promoting the album. The album, actually, everyone can get for free. They're touring because that's where they make their money now. People make their money on the tour. Well, it's hard to make that money on a tour as a filmmaker, but actually you can. And that's what a lot of filmmakers are doing. So here's King Corn. What they did was they, instead of doing a traditional theatrical, they set up screenings on campuses and different non-traditional venues around the country, and people paid because they wanted to be there with the filmmaker. They wanted to see the filmmaker talking. So they made their money off the embodiment of being there in person. And I think everyone here probably is very aware of The Age of Stupid, which is another example of someone who's done this as well. So I won't go too far into it. But what I think is great about The Age of Stupid is they've done all kinds of free screenings. They've done all kinds of internet simultaneous things. You'll hear a lot about that from them soon. But they've made it very easy for you to go on their website and book a speaker for your screening. It can be the director. It can be an expert on the subject. But people are paying because they want this extra embodiment. And they could get the film probably for free, but they'll pay because the person's there and they want to see them. Another thing they'll pay for is patronage. And here's another musician. Where musicians are always very far ahead of us film people. Jill Sobule is another musician who also got people to donate to make her album. She raised about $100,000 from donations from people who wanted to hear her music because they were her fans. And again, she did this thing where if you gave certain amounts of money, you got certain things. So if you gave $10, you basically got nothing, but you should let you know when the album was available as a free download, should send you an email and you could get it. But if you donated $5,000, she'd come by and actually play a concert in your house. If you gave $10,000, you get to come and sing on her CD. And if you can't sing, we'll fix it for you electronically. And it is funny, but it actually worked. And so this is an artist who's now able to make a career based on her fans liking her and giving her patronage because they want to see what she's doing. This has also been the case with Steal This Film. Someone else mentioned Jamie King earlier. And Steal This Film, I mean, the title says it all. They told people, we want you to steal our film. They were very much advocates of piracy, and they said, we want you to steal our film. And they gave it away completely for free. And millions of people downloaded it. The last time I heard, I believe it's about 5 million people have seen their film. That's 4.95 million more people than would have seen it if a traditional distributor had bought their film and released it the way a traditional distributor does. And they also did something later on. They said, wait a minute, if you want to donate to us because you enjoy what we're doing, then why don't you click this button and you can give us a donation. Completely voluntary. They did that, and they raised about £40,000 from donations. And if you remember going back to that earlier slide, most distributors are typically offering you maybe around $15,000. As a film like this, they probably would have gotten picked up by a small American distributor who would have given them $5,000 or $10,000. If they recouped anything, it might have been another $5,000. They made more money asking for donations from people who care about what they're doing. And what they're doing next, which hopefully we'll learn more of in the next few days, is a thing called Vodo, which they've developed, which is a very simple idea that they're going to work with all the pirate networks so that each pirate network has the same independent film on the front page of their pirate network on the same time and the same day. Each of these pirate networks probably gets 10 million viewers at any given time. So tons of people will be seeing these independent films on these pirate networks, and there'll be a very simple button called Vodo for voluntary donation that lets you click on it and give an anonymous donation to the filmmaker if you like what they're doing. So they're making a new model that could potentially fund independent films based on the idea of piracy. Another thing people will pay for is accessibility, and that basically just means you may be able to get it for free, but you'll pay for someone who's giving you an easy way to get to it. It's easier for someone else to store it for you. So while you can get any music you want anywhere for free online, people are paying Rhapsody because they want that idea that they can access it from any device very easily whenever they can. I also like to think of accessibility as the idea of convenience. So Sita Sings the Blues, who we're going to hear from, I believe, next even, is a film that you can get completely for free online. She's giving away for free as well as selling it. I've been at least 20 film festivals where this film has played, and I've never seen it on any of those film festivals because I'm usually giving some stupid talk somewhere else about free. And I could download it completely for free, but I'm not going to bother getting around to it because I just don't have the time. But I knew if I put that into my queue on Netflix, the disc would come to my house, and I would eventually watch it because I'm kind of forced to because it's sitting there on my shelf. So accessibility also equals convenient. If it's convenient, people will pay for it because it's that much easier. My mom, for example, will do this over a pirate network because she has no clue how to get on a pirate network, but she knows how to go to Amazon and pay for something. The other thing they'll pay for is findability, and this is where I think that the auteurs and Babblegum and others are being really smart. The history of the internet up until now has been about search. The future is about find. It's about finding what you want in a sea of content where there's so much crap you can't find what you want. And so people who are building systems to help you find what you want, people will pay for. This is a project we did at Tribeca called Reframe, where we were digitizing thousands of films that have been stuck on the shelf, not accessible digitally whatsoever, and selling them, oftentimes for a very high price, actually, to educational institutions. And what we did, you can barely see it here in the corner, is we accepted any film, but we had a curatorial model where people could come in, and we had hired curators that were film festival programmers, museum curators, et cetera, that were curating and saying these are the best films on these particular topics and helping people find what they wanted. Anyone could join and become a curator, and people could rate those curators. So a kid in Oklahoma who just loved films could suddenly become a well-known curator and rise to the top. But the idea was we were helping people to find it, and so people were willing to pay for it. So this is a quick summary of everything I've just been talking about and the ideas that I think filmmakers need to think of in terms of how to get people to pay for their content in a world of free. Another way of thinking of it is actually this formula, which is easy to remember. CWF plus RTB equals dollars. That's actually much simpler than it seems. It's made up by Mike Masnick, who's the editor of Tech Dirt, an online blog. The idea is connect with fans, give them a reason to buy, and then you'll make money. Well, connect with fans is pretty easy now. You've got Facebook, you've got Twitter, you've got all these different ways. You've got the auteurs, fans, et cetera, that you can connect with fans. And that's what all these artists that I've been showing have been doing. They've been connecting directly to the fans and giving them some reason to buy their content, whether it's patronage or any of the other generatives, and it works. And I'll end on an old marketing adage, which goes that no one ever goes to the hardware store to buy a quarter-inch drill bit. They go to the hardware store because they need a quarter-inch hole. They need to hang a picture on the wall. They don't go to buy a hammer. They go because they want to get a nail into the wall to hang a photo. And likewise, people haven't always been going to our movies because they just want to go see a movie. In fact, while I love seeing a movie on a big screen like this projected on film, and it's what I studied as my background, the reality is the only reason artistically that we are seeing films in theaters has historically been because that's how Hollywood can get as many butts in seats and make as much money as possible. It wasn't a consideration based on aesthetics at all. It was based on how do we get as many people in a seat as possible. And people were going to those films not just because they wanted to watch your movie, they were going because they wanted to get away from their parents, so they wanted to go see that popcorn movie that day. They were going there because they wanted to connect with friends. They wanted to talk about that film afterwards. And we now have a lot of tools online that allow people to connect with your story in different ways and allow them to share that with their friends and get it further than ever before. And cross-media brings us a lot more of those tools to tell those stories. So you're going to be hearing a lot more of that over the next couple days. But my suggestion is that all of us as filmmakers think of how we can use these tools to better accomplish our original goals. Thank you. And I hear a rumor we have time for one or two questions if there are any. Any? Well, that means I either did a really good or a really bad presentation, but thank you all. I was wrong. There's a question.
Do you think pre-buying, have you seen any examples of pre-buying products? So people are eventually spreading the risk of funding projects by selling an idea to effectively patronage, but in the sense of pre-buying books, films, stuff like that.
Yeah, I think that you're just slowly starting to see it in the film world. There's even some websites that have launched, for example, Indiegogo, where they're trying to get people to donate towards films. And then you're not becoming an investor in those films. You're a fan of those films. You're a donator to those films. And a lot of people are adding in those incentives. Like if you give me $20, then I'll send you a DVD of the film when it's ready. If you give me $500, I'll send you an even higher quality hard drive with all of the assets that you can remix, sample, do whatever you want with. So there's filmmakers that are starting to experiment with this. I think there needs to be a lot more. Because that's obviously something that if we watch the music world, that's where things are starting to go. It also gives you an idea before finishing the product of what's working. So if you're getting a lot of fans based on some certain things, those might be assets that you find you could sell in other ways. So maybe people aren't connecting with one aspect of your story, but they're really connecting with that scene with the characters going to see that band in the club, and you go, wait a minute, I could actually sell the DVD footage of that band playing the entire concert, not just that 5-minute scene in my film, as another asset I could sell online. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question. Thank you. The word findability that you've just used at the end is obviously key in terms of getting a film above the clutter, and the cost of marketing is essential to that. Have you any evidence of these examples you've given of films, of any revenue streams associated with any of these decluttered films? Like how much actually the long tail is worth to any of these films? Do you have any figures at all? Because that's the bit that we're missing.
Off the top of my head, no. I apologize. I do know that there are filmmakers that, I talk to filmmakers, and anecdotally I can say I'm talking to a lot more filmmakers now that by using all these new methods are bringing in money directly from their fans that are, $50,000, $100,000, that kind of range. I've heard stories of even more, and actually a couple of filmmakers that are here speaking are going to talk about their experiences making hundreds of thousands of dollars by connecting directly with their fans. The key is breaking through that clutter, and if you just put your stuff up, and as much as I love these sites, and they would admit this, I'm sure, if you just put your stuff on Babblegum or just put it on IndieFlix or Reframe or any other site, no one's going to necessarily find it. You've got to do all that extra work of finding your audience. But I think it begins before you even start making the film. You've got to start building, whether it's just, tweeting to your friends that I'm starting to make my movie, so they start sharing it with their other friends, and you're slowly building that audience to break through the crowd. Hopefully, if I come here next year, I can bring some numbers for you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, everyone.